Mr. Jason Kim,
Yes, sir.
Mr. John Matisich,
Here.
Miss Anieska Garcia, Miss Stephanie Jang,
Here.
Miss Rebecca Lee,
Here.
Mr. Kevin Lim,
Yes.
Dr. Thomas Matarazzo,
Here.
Miss Un Min,
Yes.
Mr. Timothy Yang,
Here.
Mr. Ben Choi.
Yeah.
Is Miss Lala Gillis virtual tonight? Lala? She is?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you very much. It's a nice shiny apple there.
Thank you. In the compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 213, PL 1975, I hereby state the adequate notice of this regular meeting has been provided to the public by a written notice dated February 2nd, 2021, dated over the original notice. The meeting notice has been emailed to all the staff members, communicate to at least one of the board designated newspaper, and filed with the Borough Clerk of Palisades Park. Next agenda is the report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President. As many of you are very aware at this point, earlier today, the Palisades Park School District were honored and very, very fortunate to have many distinguished guests here in this room. Governor Phil Murphy, Commissioner of Education, Angelica Allen McMillan, Senator Teresa Ruiz, were amongst many elected officials here today to award the Palisades Park School District with a grant in the amount of $832,860 for a full day pre-K program for students in this community of ages 3 and 4 years old. I would be remiss if I did not publicly thank Ms. Gillis, Ms. Romero, Ms. Halley, for their efforts in our submission of this grant. It clearly was one of the better days that I've ever experienced as superintendent, and an opportunity to begin public education free of charge for children and families of 3 and 4 years old is not only an opportunity to start educating our future, but it also allows for the community of Palisades Park to become much more desirable as a place to reside because of that opportunity for families. So for that, I thank all that the State Department of Education did in acknowledging our efforts in the application. Second, it's been a wild start so far, but we are doing our very best like many other school districts. This is not something we can prepare for, but we take it one day at a time. I thank the faculty, the staff, the students for their resiliency. But of course, with the hurricane, remnants that we experienced, a special thank you goes to our custodial and maintenance crew. We were prepared to open. We had a hiccup with many others, but we did our very best, and I thank everyone for their efforts to make sure that we started school on the 7th of September as best we could, and we are very proud to say that we are in good shape. And finally, to the Palisades Park Police Department, I owe a very special thank you for their collaboration. We've had evacuation drills conducted in all our schools. In 2 of our 3 schools. We've had police consultants give their best practices and share them with our school administrators to ensure that the safety and security above all of our school stakeholders is never compromised. And for that, again, I am very grateful to our local PD. I do have 2 items in new business that I'm going to seek resolutions for, but I will wait for new business for those. Thank you.
Thank you. Report of the board president. I have nothing to report except that today's function about the universal pre-K program. I really appreciate all the people who got involved with writing the grant, and also people that who work very hard from the behind. Because of their effort, we are making $832,000 a year for 5 years for the full day kindergarten for 3rd and 4th years old. That's an asset. That's the we call wonderful story or good story that to have it. So again, I will thank you again for the people that who got involved with that. Good job. Kudos for that. Okay. Thank you. And report of a board attorney?
I have nothing to publicly report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is a minute approval. Do we have any minute approvals? Okay, not this time. No reports. Committee reports. Finance, Mr. John Madison, please.
Before you have 11 resolutions. I move on the consent agenda on Rule 11.
Okay. Any discussion?
One question about this cancel check.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry, we can't hear.
Yeah, I just asked earlier, what is the procedure of canceling the check? By the way?
Yep, so anytime that any checks are not probably cashed in a timely manner, as per the auditors, they are asked that we cancel those checks and close out those purchase orders. Again, it could be a number of reasons. The check could have been misplaced by the vendor. Maybe a new check has been issued. But again, as we are very well aware, there are time constraints with regard to a check being cashed. So these 4 specific checks, in the small amounts, they are probably, and 3 of them are in the athletic account. I can assume without making, that definitive, that they may be provided to referees or officials. I'm just looking at the amounts and the check numbers. $58 usually amounts for a official that probably oversaw a athletic event. I don't want to speak out of line on the $288 or the $130, but again, the board is not losing that money. We are recouping it, but we probably had to reissue checks.
Dr. Cirillo?
Procedure of the canceling check. Could I get a copy of the check?
So
Because I just wondering when the check was issued.
Of course, of course.
On the normal financial, where the check, how long the check was issued, right?
Correct.
I just want to see,
Of course.
I'm sorry, we can't hear the questions.
So I think the question, and again, it's not easy to juggle many of things here like this, but to the best of my knowledge, and paraphrasing Mr. Lim's question, the question is pertaining to the checks in question on resolution number 3. There are 4 checks that were, for lack of better words, stale, as the resolution reads, which probably means they were not cashed. Ms. Beshold is on the call, as is Ms. Gillis. If either of you want to shed some light on this.
Yeah, Dr. Cirillo, actually, 3 of those checks had been reissued, so we needed to clear these off the books.
So is it fair to say publicly that the checks were probably out of range for deposit purposes, and that's why they needed to be reissued?
Exactly.
So that speaks to 3 of the 4. Do you know what
Yes.
the matter on the 4th check is?
I believe the 4th check was voided. What happens in some instances when we send a check, then something happens and the goods or services actually weren't provided and we void it. So these were just cleared off the books.
So we do have copies of the 4 canceled checks to prove
Yes.
states were out of range as per Mr. Lim's request?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And they're from a prior year, so we had to void these.
And I know Mr. Lim,
I just want to see the kind of procedure, because normally, on the normal, the public company, right? If the check is issued more than 3 months, in general, okay? It's simply, even less than 2 months, right? It's contact the vendor, see what happens to the check, right? So I just want to see, what kind of, the check issued last year.
I don't know.
It should be on 10 years, should have been more carefully. Because in the check, that issue was more than 6 months or 7 months, 8 months. There might be some kind of issue.
yeah, so I know we have a meeting on Tuesday. We can look into that more specifically. But what I can tell you again, if these checks were issued, and I can speak to the first 2, I'm almost certain that $58 equates to an official's fee. If we sent them the check and they did not cash it, it's difficult. It is difficult on our end to anticipate why that check wasn't canceled or cashed or not. But we can look at this more closely on Tuesday. and I'll have a copy of these checks for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, board members? And roll call, please.
Mr. Jason Kim?
Yes, sir.
Mr. John Matisich? Ms. Annie Garcia? Ms. Stephanie Jang?
Yes.
Ms. Rebecca Lee? Mr. Kevin Lim? Dr. Thomas Matarazzo?
Yes.
Ms. Un Min?
Yes.
Mr. Timothy Yang?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is the buildings and ground. Anybody, so Stephanie, you wanna make a motion?
Yes, there are two items that I would like to bring up to consent agenda.
I second it.
Any discussion?
So anytime these requests come in before Ms. Montemuro sends them our way, she does check with the building administrators, absolutely. Yep, so it looks like, last month, if you remember, when Mr. Terranova was before us, there was some requests. So it looks like some dates may have conflicted, that we said we would speak to them. So clearly there are some revisions here. You got it.
And I just want to ask if the mask mandate is also in effect.
Absolutely. I think that speaks, and I know Ms. Garcia, number 2 on the bottom, it does speak to masking is mandated and will be strictly enforced. Absolutely. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Then roll call, please, for buildings and ground item.
Mr. Jason Kim?
Yes, sir.
Mr. John Matisich?
Yes.
Ms. Annie Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Stephanie Jang?
Yes.
Ms. Rebecca Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Kevin Lim? Dr. Thomas Matarazzo?
Yes.
Ms. Un Min?
Yes.
Mr. Timothy Yang?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item is personnel. Dr. Matarazzo.
Yes, before I met with Dr. Cirillo today, I spoke with him, and before you, you have 8 resolutions. I move on all 8.
Any discussion? None? Okay, then roll call, please.
Mr. Jason Kim?
Yes, sir.
Mr. John Matisich?
Yes.
Ms. Annie Garcia? Ms. Stephanie Jang?
Yes.
Ms. Rebecca Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Kevin Lim?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas Matarazzo?
Yes.
Ms. Un Min?
Yes.
Mr. Timothy Yang?
Yes.
Next item is curriculums. Mr. Yang,
There's no report.
thank you. Next item is the negotiation. Ms. Stephanie Jang.
Yeah, we're still under, Palisades Park Administrator's, agreement, and it's in the process, so it will go through soon. That's all.
Okay. Next item, policy.
Before you, we have 3 items. 2 are new that we are adopting on the policy, based on the vaccine testing, an update on the non-resident policy, and like all 3 on the agenda.
We have a second, so any discussion?
For number 3, I think that we will have to, discuss this about, because this says, the payment of tuition will be waived, but, I don't know, my idea is, if they are coming from, other districts, maybe, accommodating the student will be no problem. But, for their Board of Education, they have the funds to, fund the students, yeah? So that they can get some reimbursement for that education.
Yeah, unfortunately, I believe because there is a virtual option being afforded in this instance, they will not compensate us monetarily. This is not going to cost the board any more money than we've already allocated to this classroom setting. So this will be an in-person option for the child in this case, and this is why the policy is being amended or at least recommended for amendment tonight.
I see. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So you mean-
It's only clear that something like what happened with French skills, the children had to be dispersed in different areas that the tents or the location. I'm not mistaken, I think one child. So I think it's only fair that we should set the child community, without changing. That's my feeling.
And I think it's very important, one of the key words in this revision is in the second sentence or second line, and it speaks to temporary. This is not a permanent placement. This is a temporary placement to assist in times of need, and that's what this is right now.
Sure.
Case by case.
Case by case, we will visit it each and every time on a case by case basis, and I will provide a rationale if needed.
Right, and also natural disaster and declaration of emergency.
Which all has to use applicable in your situation.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, the consent agenda, all three of them. Okay, and roll call please.
Mr. Jason Kim?
Yes, sir.
Mr. John Matisich? Ms. Anieska Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Stephanie Jang?
Yes?
Ms. Rebecca Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Kevin Lim? Dr. Thomas Matarazzo?
Yes.
Ms. Eun Min?
Yes.
Mr. Timothy Yang?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is PTSA liaison, Ms. Min. Thank you. Student activity and field trip, Rebecca Lee, yes?
There's no report.
Okay. And we don't have a closed session, right?
I do not need closed session tonight.
Okay, then all the business.
I have one item. We did discuss this at our August meeting, and it is regarding, again, what we said as a follow-up to
Yeah.
the dance team competition.
Mhm.
I did have some follow-up with the advisor, the moderator of that club, or team. They are still seeking approval because it does potentially, involve, missing of school time. And if it's a school-sponsored activity, of course, we should always, consider this for approval.
Mhm.
So I am going to make the same recommendation, that we approve the Palisades Park Junior Senior High School dance team, an opportunity to go to Orlando, Florida, as we have done in years past for the competition.
They're so good too. They're very good.
I make a motion to accept Dr. Similar's report.
I'll second it.
Okay.
On
Any other discussion?
Yes, I just heard on the news that we are the highest, today is the highest fatality rates in the last 7 months. And it's not so much the people that were vaccinated that we're worried about, it's those who have not been vaccinated. And I'm still skeptical and worried that, the students are going to be going on a plane and they're going to be exposed to any kind of virus. And I'm still not sold on it yet.
Dr. Matarazzo, a month ago or 3 weeks ago when we last met, I did not have all the facts that I was presented with earlier this week. I will tell you, I am like anything else, at any given time, even if we were vaccinated, we could be subjected to still contracting the virus. But I can go on record and share with you that, it was advised to me that each and every participant is fully vaccinated.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about those that are vaccinated. I'm worried about the people they're exposed to that have not been vaccinated. And I do know that Florida is like the #1 state where it is spreading. And again, for the student safety, not to hurt anybody of our students. I want them to participate, but at what expense?
That was confirmed to me today. The advisors and the children, again, I am not seeking that information. It was shared to me, that they are all fully vaccinated.
I just want to clarify, this is an event that's going to be happening in January,
This is an event that's happening in February.
February. So it's going to be happening next year. My understanding for reason for approval is that they will continue to raise funds and make deposits. And I believe based on the last meeting that in December, they still have the opportunity to withdraw. The competition itself may be canceled depending on the circumstances. So
That is
I think
correct.
that we have room on the timeline to approve, and we can make modifications, or the team can make modifications, or if there's serious safety concerns.
I think a great term to use in this, recommendation could be a conditional approval.
Correct.
And again, I don't see why that would be such a, something that can't be revisited at a later date if things don't warrant
And
it.
the team itself may make their own decisions.
Family members can supersede the board at any time as they should. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, then any more discussion on this? Okay, roll call please. Then.
Mr. Jason Kim?
Yes, sir.
Mr. John Matisich? Ms. Anieska Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Stephanie Jang?
Yes?
Ms. Rebecca Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Kevin Lim?
Yes.
Dr. Thomas Matarazzo?
As long as we can revisit this and readjust it, yes. As long as we could do that. The answer is yes.
Thank you. Ms. Unman? Mr. Timothy Yang?
Okay, then new business.
So I have two items for the board to consider. Annually, I am required to work closely with the local municipal police department, additionally with the county prosecutor's office in our memorandum of agreement between local building and school officials and law enforcement officials. So I am asking for our annual submission. There are no changes. I met with Captain Lee. We have reviewed the document. He is the officer in charge at this moment for the Palisades Park Police. And I am asking the board to please consider approval on this recommendation. I do, for submission. Thank you.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jason Kim?
Yes, sir.
Mr. John Matisich?
Yes.
Ms. Anieska Garcia? Ms. Stephanie Jang? Ms. Rebecca Lee? Mr. Kevin Lin? Dr. Matarazzo?
Yes.
Ms. Unmin? Mr. Timothy Yang?
Yes.
And finally, something new this year, which is being required by the Department of Education. It's a local education agency guidance for virtual or remote instruction plan. It's an attestation, if nothing else, that we have and are prepared in the event of an emergency to go fully virtual in the event it is necessitated. I need to submit this to the county by October 29th. I do not want to wait till the October board meeting. Guys, we've provided a virtual platform in the past. If, for worst case scenario, we would have to pivot and go back to that, we are prepared to do so. I will need a motion for submission to the county Department of Education, please.
I absolutely move on this.
Second. Any second? Okay. Any discussion on this?
Ms.
Roll call, please.
Excuse me. Mr. Jason Kim?
Yes, sir.
Mr. John Matisich?
Yes.
Ms. Anieska Garcia? Ms. Stephanie Jang? Ms. Rebecca Lee? Mr. Kevin Lin?
Yes.
Dr. Matarazzo?
Yes.
Ms. Unmin? Mr. Timothy Yang? Thank you.
Next item is audience participation.
New business?
Yeah, we are done with it.
Okay, I have two items I'd like to ask. Number one, how soon will we be enacting this pre-K program? And if it's going to be this year, we're going to have to post for additional personnel?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay.
The first question, how soon? It is expected that the program begin by October 4th. The postings have gone out. So for the record, although the governor made the announcement today, we did know, I was notified earlier, probably 10 days ago, that we were recipients of the grant. It was asked that I do not share that information publicly because, again, the governor did not only award Palisades Park with the grant, but there were, I believe, 19 school districts today receiving the grant. We were the only district in Bergen County, and clearly very honored that he was here to make that announcement. It was supposed to happen last week, which would have given us one extra week. Clearly, Joe Biden came to town and Joe Cirillo got pushed aside, but that's okay. There was bigger problems that the governor had to attend to, understandably so. The postings have gone out. We are seeking additional employees for this program, specifically 2 teachers. Fortunately for us, we are running a preschool integrated program. We have a curriculum. We are, again, this is a program that is so beneficial to so many children in our community, and maybe the local daycares or child care providers of 3 and 4 years old are not going to be necessarily happy with me or with the Palisades Park schools for offering free education, but in a community like ours where so many families really need this, we are very fortunate to be on the receiving end.
I agree, and I congratulate everyone, including yourself, on getting this program started. Do we have the desks? Do we have the facility? Where will they be housed? Obviously at ECC.
Yeah, so we, fortunately, again, we would not have submitted this application if we could not, adhere to the regulations that are being sought. There was a very, tedious application process, reviewed by many members of the Department of Education, a little bit of back and forth. Fortunately for us, and the plan is very simple. There was an isolation room that was required in the past. That is no longer required. That is a full classroom space that will be utilized. Additionally, unfortunately, and I hope the teachers understand, we have art and music that now will be traveling to classrooms in lieu of students traveling to those locations. So art and music will be on a cart, and there will be another free homeroom, necessarily, if we want to call it that, section for preschool programming. We are this year expected to offer this program for 60 children. The good news is we have 2 sections running, not at full capacity. We have 2 full classrooms that are ready for what I anticipate to be a knocking down of the doors. And we are scheduling registration evenings to accommodate the community next week.
Now, how many students would be in each class in pre-K? I know that.
So there's a requirement that 15 is the mandatory obligated number. We cannot exceed that number. There are so many regulations, and there should be. This is very, very, very delicate, and it really needs to continue to be a nurturing program for many of these children.
Okay, so if we're going to hire 2 teachers and we have 60 students, aren't we going to need, I know that the pre-Ks that are running now have at least 10 or 15 students in them now.
No, they're not that high.
10? They're not 10?
There's one class of 10. There are additional seats there. And there's
Okay.
one class of 7. So there are additional seats there as well. We
Okay,
also
so-
have additional special education classrooms that are not at capacity.
Okay. Okay. My second question is, since the beginning of the year, have we had an outbreak or any student, like I don't want to know names, that COVID may have transpired with the faculty and or students?
I will tell you that 0 students, and again, I don't know how much or how little I can share about this topic, but publicly, unfortunately today, as was shared with the junior, senior high school faculty and staff, because there's a full transparent obligation that I will provide to every faculty, staff, student, community member. One faculty member at the junior, senior high school today confirmed that he or she is positive. We have had 0 cases of children.
Good. Okay, and now you feel hard, I mean, again, whoever that teacher is or faculty member, the ones that have interaction with that person have been notified?
Everyone that has been required by the health department to be placed on the quarantine has been placed on the quarantine.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on, there's a question here.
Yeah.
For the program, for the legislation, how will you change?
So it's a first come, first serve. Just like we've run our integrated program for the last 5 years. And with a paid program prior to the pandemic, there was a wait list. So I'm anticipating the numbers to be greater than it's been in the past. But I also know that this is only for Palisades Park residents. And that must be determined at a residency check.
That will start October 4th.
That is the anticipated start date as per our submission of the application. Sure.
Any other new business item? Okay, so next one is audience participation, limited to 3 minutes for the participants. We're gonna get all the questions all together, and then we'll probably answer one at a time. A question first. Any audience participation? Okay, none taken. Then we're gonna have adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Yeah, anybody make a motion to adjourn?
I make a move.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. We are officially adjourned.